I think the key to peace is always to build trust. There must be trust between the government and the ceasefire groups, and that trust can only be based on some sort of respect. True, they have killed each other. True, the people who have seen their friends, families being killed, who would be wanting revenge or being very unhappy. But there is no other way than building trust, and then you should do as much as possible jointly. If there is development in a state, road building, schools, hospitals, the more you can form a committee of the government with the ceasefire group to give directions to this, the more likely there will be trust.
A peace process to succeed needs to build trust and confidence where at the moment there isn't any, and nothing succeeds like visible benefits in building trust. The benefits need to extend to two, in a way, distinct groups. One is ordinary people living in the conflict areas, and the other is the military organizations in the conflict areas themselves. Military organizations in Myanmar have often been there for 40 or 50 years, and so for them to become redundant and disband is quite a big step. What are the people who devoted their lives to armed struggle now going to do? And so it's important as part of the peace process to offer them other opportunities. Of course, what their core skill is soldiers. And so an obvious future for them is to integrate them into the Myanmar army, both as ordinary soldiers and as officers. And it's very important as part of the peace process to build an army which is ethnically integrated. That's another big step in building trust and confidence. So that's one strategy. The second strategy is a bit more ingenious, is to think, well, what do these military organizations typically look like? They're an officer in charge of a group of men. That's the basic unit structure. And that structure is very similar to the structure you need in a lot of small businesses. In particular, construction. Simple constructions, such as rural roads and the sort of buildings you need to develop small towns, that's the basic ingredients are young men organized around a team leader. And so giving the contracts for the infrastructure strategy in the remote areas, giving those contracts to the armed groups, turning them into small enterprises, would be a challenge, but would then offer a non-fighting future to these groups.
But I believe that everybody goes into a negotiation table is already a very good step. Then comes the trust building. You need an agency filled by fully trusted people by all parties, and it can be very transparent. So once the political process is over, then you immediately have to follow it up with economic development. But be careful with economic development, because you also create jealousy. And this jealousy, again, can trigger another conflict. So these are the things that have to be very carefully managed. And usually the source of this jealousy is the concession on mineral resources, natural resources, that have to be very carefully managed and also legalized in a good bill that is the design of all parties sitting around the table.